So here's what we got. You want to identify the coordinate point of the midpoint of a line or between 2 points, okay? That's what we're going to try and do. We're just trying to basically find the middle of 2 points. That's what this is, okay? So I guess this is just a map of Waterloo's campus, I guess. I maybe should have, I don't know where UWP is, but basically all we're doing is like, you know, if this is one of the points you're going to try and meet at or something, down here, all this is saying is like, oh, what's the midpoint between these two? You're going to like connect them, right? And then you're just going to find the middle for like kind of a gathering thing. That's all this first part's saying. Okay? So you can try and find it on the map. Doesn't really matter too much, okay? For the purposes of time, I'm not going to sit here and stare at this map to try to find 3 letters. Okay, so yeah, it's okay. It's just a map, right? And it's 2 points, and you try and find the middle of those 2 points as like a meetup point. That's all the point is. Or like the gist, sorry, not point. The gist of that is, okay? So let's go down to the part A here. Okay? What I want to do is plot the points first, then use the graph to kind of like help visualize how we would find the middle. Okay, so let's go plot these 2 points. I'll do the first one in black because we'll do all 3 on the same grid, okay? So the first ones I'll do in black. So 2, 6, I'm going to go plot 2, 6. Okay, and then that's point A. And then point B is going to be 10, 6. Okay, now let's just look at that and tell me what the midpoint of that line segment is. Just visually on the graph. How would I, like, you're just going to try and find that, right? What are you doing? What's that? You can count. You can count. Sometimes you can't count because you might be at like a fractional value or something, right? Like in this situation, yeah. What ultimately what we're going to do is I'm going to give you an equation that allows you to solve for the midpoint of any point ever on the graph, or any 2 points, sorry. Right? That's what we're going to build towards, but the idea doesn't change, right?
Did we kind of do that when we were trying to find the axis of symmetry?
You guys, that's what I mean. You guys have already done a form of this with the axis of symmetry. You've done this question anyway, right? I can kick it up a notch, which you'll see hopefully in a sec, where it's not the same thing, but it's very similar. Okay, so you guys know the middle. Where's the middle of this one? 6, 6. That looks like it breaks those 2 points right in half, right? And basically the gist is you've got on either side of that red point, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? In theory, this is not a difficult concept. Okay? In practice, we can kick it up a little bit if it's not a horizontal line or a vertical line. That's where things get a little bit trickier, but the idea is still the same. Okay? So what you guys would have done is just taken, what you would have done is you would have taken one x value plus the other one, like we showed you, or like I showed you with the quadratics. So you would have gone 2 plus 10 divided by 2. That would have found the middle for you, right? So that's 12 divided by 2, that's 6. Right? We did that. That would have been your axis of symmetry if this was a quadratic. Right? We've done this. Now, let's try and kick it up a notch now. Try to get rid of these. Okay, let's plot the next one. We'll go to negative 4, 4. And negative 4, negative 2. Connect those. Okay, this will be point C and point D. What's the middle of those two? Again, you can count it, or what I would like to see you do is maybe start getting in the practice of going, okay, well, what's the y value on C? The y value on C is going to be 4 plus -2 divided by 2. Right, so we're just finding the middle between 2 points.
Now, is it always divided by 2?
To find the middle, yeah. Let's be like your average of your marks at school would be like however many courses you took, add them all up and divide by that number, right? So with you guys, you had take 8 in a year. Your average over the year would be all of them added together, divide by 8. That gives you the middle for 8 things. Here, you just have 2 things. So you're just going to divide by 2.
What's the, is it like x plus y over 2? Is that like before you got the numbers in?
What do you, x plus y?
So like the 4 plus -3 over 2.
It's both the y values.
Oh.
Okay. You just gotta come along for a sec for a ride, and then I'll show you, like, we'll develop the equation down at the bottom. You guys just use the equation all the time. Straightforward, dead easy. Okay. So the middle of these y values would be 2 over 2, which is gonna equal 1, right? So here's your midpoint. Any major concerns right now? It's actually not bad. So many. So many.
Like everywhere, like totally not getting this at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just keep watching. You'll get it, buddy. Okay. Okay, what we're gonna do eventually is, what if I gave you, the next one's a good example, I think. Let's do the next one. What we're gonna do now is develop, like, we're gonna plot a line that isn't horizontal and not vertical. It's just gonna be at some angle or slope. At which point you're gonna be like, I don't know how to find the middle of this thing. But in reality, you do, right? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's plot the last one. We'll do these points in, I don't know, purple or something. -2, -8. That's point E, right? F is at 7 and 8. Okay, we're going to connect those. Now what? It's not perfectly vertical or horizontal now. A little bit harder to find the midpoint. What are you going to do? The principle does not change though, right? So we're going to go, what's the middle of the x values? We just got to find the middle of the x values, right? So one of them is -2 and one is 7. Right? So we'll just add them together and divide by 2. -2 plus 7 divided by 2. That's 5 over 2. Should it be 2.5? Okay. Okay. That's fine. That just means somewhere along here, this line 2.5, I guess, in theory, you already know the midpoint now, but we need the numerical value because it could not be nice. We know that the midpoint of the x's has to go through here somewhere. This would be like finding your vertex now, almost, kind of, you know? Like, we know the midpoint's somewhere, like, we know it's there, right? What is the value is the issue. It's not necessarily right in the middle of a grid line, right? So we haven't locked down exactly what the midpoint is. We know where it is visually, right? But we need the number. Okay, so to find the number, you do the same thing for the y's. We're going to go from -8 all the way up to +8. So let's find the middle of those two values. -8 plus 8 divided by 2. Well, that's 0 divided by 2. So it's 0. So regardless of like how neat I try to draw some of these pictures, we would have thought it was down here like in the negative quadrant somewhere, but it really wasn't. It should be right on 0. Because the midpoint tells me that it should be. Does that make sense? So if I come down now, like, all I've done is found the midpoint of the y values, and I found the midpoint of the x values, right? Which are in purple and red. Can you guys see the difference? Yeah. In the colors, right? All I've done. So here's the midpoint formula. It's pretty straightforward. It's kind of nice. I always label it like a capital X, capital Y for a midpoint. Right? You could also see it like this, midpoint of X, Y or something. I like the capital X, Y. You know, that's just my thing. Okay? We're gonna add x1 plus x2 divided by 2. We're gonna draw a comma. y1 plus y2 divided by 2. That tells you the midpoint every single time. It's a cardinal point. You're gonna separate the two with a comma. And all you're doing is finding the middle of the y values and finding the middle of the x values and plotting them as a point. That is it. That's the midpoint of a line segment created by 2 points. Okay, does that make sense? So let's try a couple. Okay, we'll go down here. I'll do the first one, then I'll give you a couple minutes to try the second one. Okay? We have these 2 points. I'm not going to plot them now, because we saw plotting wasn't the most accurate thing, right? Especially if you start getting into decimal values. So all we're gonna do is I just write capital X, Y, because this is what I'm trying to figure out, is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. That's a cardinal point.
The first thing, does it say x1y or is it x comma y?
X comma Y. It's like a, you could call it like this, Coco, if you want. It's a midpoint XY. Okay. I just like denoting the actual X and Y values of the midpoint different from the X and Y's from the actual points from the line segment.
What's the point of having them capital?
Well, I don't know. I just labeled them capital for, like, Coco's question right here is X1. Is that the same as the X1 that's there? No, it's different.
Is that x1 or is that x comma 1?
It's X comma. It's capital. That's why I use the capitals, right? It's because there's no question as to what you're plugging in and what the numbers are, right? It's just a different variable, but yeah.
Can you just write xy without the comma?
No, because it's a point.
I mean, on the other side, you have a comma.
What side?
On the other side of the sheet, like if you scroll up, right there, the small MXY, you can write the comma. No, beside that, to the left.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I just put that there. Yeah. Yeah. It's a point that needs a comma. You have an X value, you have a Y value. Okay. That's just not my way of writing it. I just like the capitals for whatever reason. I don't know. Okay. So you're just going to plug in the values. There's x1, there's x2. It's equal to 4 plus -8 divided by 2. Now let's go do the y values. We've got -3 plus -5 divided by 2. Okay, that's a point, so we better keep the brackets on there. You just do the math now, separately. 4 plus -8 is going to be -4 divided by 2. -8 divided by 2. All right, so the midpoint of this line is going to be -2, -4.
Just say like midpoint.
You can, yeah, if you want to. You guys, I don't really care how you denote it. It's fine. Like I said, the capital thing is just that's my thing. So it makes sense in my head. I don't know. You guys can say midpoint. Doesn't matter. What matters is we're all solving for the same thing, and we plot it the same way on the graph. Right? Any major questions? It's kind of nice lesson. Okay. What's the next one? The other thing, Coco, is if you just use M, if you guys just use M, what you're going to find is M is slope. And that's going to come up in this unit. And then you'll be like, is this midpoint? Is this slope?
What if you put MP?
That's fine, MP. You mean like M subscript P?
Or just like MP? Or does that like look like two variables?
It looks like two variable. It looks like MP could be like MX or something. I don't know. It's up to you guys. Anyway, you're going to denote it how it makes sense to you. Right?
So the M subscript unit.
Sure. Everybody okay? You get that? Yes, Al?
For D, do you want us to write the y value as a fraction or as a decimal?
Let's see what happens. I would write as a fraction. Don't start rounding. He's not really rounding with that one, but I could make it 11/3, and then you're gonna have a bunch of decimal places. It's better to leave it. But you'll see why in a sec. Hopefully. Okay? What I want you to do, right off the top, I'm gonna ask you one of these questions on, well, maybe not on a test, yeah, maybe on the exam I'd ask you a question like this. Where it's like, because obviously like the midpoint of the line, that's like a cakewalk, right? So to kick it up a notch, I'd ask you the number 2 here. But it's not, it's just a notch up, right? All it's saying is I want you to figure out, I'm gonna write down my midpoint equation. X and Y. You could label them big, capital, I don't know. Seems to be a point of controversy, so it doesn't really matter. Okay? That's equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2. And then y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Now these two things are separate events, right? That's why they're separated by a comma. Right, they're separate things. They don't necessarily affect one or the other, right? So what I'm about to do, you do it separately in 2 stages. So now you're just going to plug in the information you know. You know the midpoint, the values of x and y. So x for the midpoint here is 2, and 11/2. And that's equal to, you have one point here, A. You have, we could call it x1 and a y1. You plug both those numbers in. So x1 is going to be -2 plus x2 divided by 2. And y1 is going to be -5 plus y2 divided by 2. Okay? Now, what you are allowed to do, because it's separated by a comma, you're able to solve. Separately. Any questions? Coco, did you have a question?
Yes. So on the first one, like, what's the line with the MX?
I'm just highlighting things as I go. Just talking about stuff. Oops. Okay, so you're able to solve these two things separately. What you're going to see with the y one is if you leave it as a fraction, it's kind of nice. The fraction ends up canceling, right? So let's do the blue calculation first. 2 equals -2 plus x2 divided by 2. Right? Multiply both sides by 2. I get 4 equals -2 plus x2. Add 2 to both sides. 6 equals x2. Okay, same thing on the other side now. 11 over 2 is equal to -5 plus y2 divided by 2. Multiply both sides by 2. The 2's cancel, so you're left with 11 equals -5 plus y2. Oops, not y squared, y2. Add 5 to both sides. 16 equals y2. So when it asks you for what point 2 is, you can say 6 and 16. Done. Any questions? Not bad lesson.